Welcome everyone to the Gavel. I am Terry Ikumi. Well, let's begin with the controversial counter-subversion bill. The bill, which was introduced this year, has now been withdrawn by the Speaker following public reactions. The bill seeks to criminalize subversive activities by associations, organizations, militias, cults, bandits, and other proscribed groups in Nigeria. Now, a statement by the Special Advisor to the Speaker on Media, Musa Kirshi, explains that the decision reflects the Speaker's commitment to ensuring that the House remains truly the People's House. The statement reads in part, the Speaker acknowledges the significance of the concerns raised and the attention the bill has garnered, reaffirming that he will never support any action that might disrupt the peace and unity of our nation. End of quote. Now, some provisions in that bill include that a person who engages in activities that results in mutual suspicion, mistrust, distrust, or intolerance, which degenerates into conflict and violence that threatens the corporate existence, peace, and security of the Federation of Nigeria, commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine of 5 million naira or imprisonment for a term of 10 years or both. Also, that a person who engages in illegal road traffic function, illegal roadblock, imposition of illegal curfew, conduct of illegal procession, checkpoint, and other similar acts commits an offense and is liable to a fine of 2 million naira or imprisonment for a term of 5 years or both. And a person who destroys national symbols, refuses to recite the national anthem and pledge, defaces or abuses a place of worship with the intention to cause violence and subverts the government of Nigeria, commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine of 5 million naira or imprisonment for a term of 10 years or both. Now, some persons have commended the Speaker for withdrawing the bill in public interest. Others are berating him for even giving a thought to something they describe as draconian for a democracy. Anyways, moving on, let's delve into something equally important, crude oil thefts. And let's find out how the continued investigative hearing of the House of Representatives Special Committee on Oil Theft panned out within the week.
The House of Representatives Special Committee on Oil Theft is proposing a special intervention fund for the Nigeria's Security and Civil Defense Corps to enable it secure the country's oil installations and guard against theft. The chairman of the committee, Honorable Ado Dogua, said this on Tuesday during a special hearing on crude oil theft across the country. The committee frowned at the allegation that the NSCDC has been sidelined in the fight against oil theft.
The fact that you people in the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps are not ordinarily co-opted or are not ordinarily being extended this special intervention of funding to help secure more of our national assets in the oil and gas sector, I think for me is one thing on one hand. And the fact that you, as a statutory security agency, the agency that is recognized by law in this country, and you also have as a duty to protect our national assets, still does not take away from you that expectation of the public that what do you actually do in terms of protecting our national assets, whether or not you are being carried out in this special intervention. And it is one information that will also be very useful to the committee to see how we can come up with a report where this agency of government or this security agencies is actually carried along, and you must also be part and parcel of this special intervention.
The investigation of crude oil theft continued the following day as the special committee of the House of Representatives met with government agencies. The Niger Delta produces the bulk of the country's crude and also houses illegal refineries and oil thieves. The Niger Delta Development Commission is questioned by the special committee on its efforts to address crude oil theft in the region, taking into consideration the complaints of the host communities.
I would not hesitate to tell you that the NDDC, the fallacies and shortfalls of the NDDC's statutory performance as an organization is contributing significantly to the problem of oil theft. If you guys can do the right thing, you take these boys off the street. The huge amount of money that is being made available to the agency, 13% derivative, the 3% cost of production, so many other things accrued to that. Because if you don't do the right thing, then simply you now give way for the criminal. You are giving them licenses to operate. And that is what they always say. I'm sorry, the language my friend here used was not only sentimental, it was inciting. Because they are always guided by these feelings. Crude oil is being taken away from my backyard. And I cannot afford to take 3 square meters. This may sound funny, but it's genuine. You give out crude oil that sustains Nigeria's economy in your own backyard, and yet you sleep in hunger.
And that is why they now go to look for energy in the pipeline. They must have PMS. They must have AGO. I'm a victim. That's why I'm saying this. So NNPCL must make sure that they reactivate first those filling stations, those floating stations. Look at them. This is a picture of it. I brought it here. This is a picture of the filling station, the floating filling station, Chairman. Look at it here. Today, no PMS. This was deliberately done to give PMS and AGO to communities. Different communities, where I come from. How will they have energy? How will they power their refrigerators? How will they refrigerate their fridges, their fishes, if they do not have PMS? So, Chairman, this is one of the root causes. Absence of PMS and AGO in the NNPCL floating station has enabled illegal bunkering.
If you want to even travel to Nembe, you have to get to Yanagua and travel the same distance. So we have been able, by reason of that single road, been able to provide security, to intervene in any oil theft in that axis. So if you want to say that you are going to do any pipeline vandalization around Nembe area, because of the road NDDC has provided, you will not go there. Because the security operatives, both Army and Navy, can get there at any moment's notice. In fact, because there is a road established now, they are trying to establish an outpost in Nembe area that will also oversee the brass area that does not have a road now. So our infrastructure is in itself is a major and cannot be undervalued in providing a solution to this oil theft. We have another project we are doing, the Okrika Borokiri Road. Infrastructure helps to give and bolster confidence to the security operatives to be able to fight oil theft. Because if you report that there is oil blowout in the flow station, the people went there to go and vandalize the wellhead. Who will go? Some of the boats that the Navy people have cannot even go on shallow waters. These people use canoes. When they get to that place, they carry the canoes on their head and run to the next creek. So the Navy people, when they get to the shallow water, they just reverse back. So when you intervene with infrastructure, it can never be underestimated.
The fact is that even when you are talking of provision of infrastructure, what I said is that, are you guys doing the right thing at the right time? This road, hold on, this road that you are talking about, do you know that I can tell you how long it took NDDC to build that road? You know how long it took NDDC to build that road? I know the time frame that took NDDC to build that road you are talking about. 16 years, my brother. 16 years. Building 28-kilometer road. Whether it was you are making or not, is that the right thing to do, my brother? If you have to take 16 years to build a 28-kilometer road, that job must be more. All the money. Yes, with all the money that is being made available to you, nobody is in any way probably trying to fix you in a difficult situation. But when we know things, when we know it, we have to let you know that there is need for you to sit up.
The lawmakers then turned their attention to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission.
Do you consider the current legal framework that establishes your organization enough in terms of your operations for you to checkmate the illegal financial transaction that is embedded in the activities of oil theft?
We would love to have an improvement on our legal framework as it currently is. You rightly did say clearly how it is that there has been issues of delay as regards our judicial system is something that is well known to all of us. There are cases oil theft cases that have gone on for over 10 years, some much longer than that, and then sometimes again, from the Court of First Instance, you see it running to appeal and then Court of Appeal and then to Supreme Court, So this also affects a lot in conclusion of the cases. So if we do have special courts, but not just specifically to issues of oil theft, but more broadly to the things that we do in terms of economic and financial crimes, this would also go a long way in assisting at the work that we do. And then also it will go a long way in also curbing the issue of oil theft. It will really go a long way. Because, one of the things that prosecutions and convictions will do is it's deterrence. Other than the recoveries and all of that, when people know that in a short time, once you are arrested and they know that in a short time you'll be tried and then convicted and then you serve your term, that in itself alone will serve as strong deterrence.
Are there any plans to incorporate more advanced surveillance technology and monitoring systems at the EFCC to curb this menace of crude oil theft?
But like I said, it's not something that we will be telling the public. These are the solutions that we put in place. Because if we're dealing with offenders, definitely we cannot just tell them the solutions or rather the softwares that we're using. But what I want to say is we're deploying technology in dealing with this, both at the intelligence level, at the investigative level, and even at the level of prosecution. Because at times, the EFCC has come up with a lot of innovations in terms of investigation and prosecution of cases that has to do with crude oil. And every day we do improve upon what we do have. So I want to just assure you that we've been deploying so many solutions to deal with issues of this nature. Because the criminals are getting sophisticated too. Rather, they use some of these tools as well. So we always study their tools, not only studying them alone, but rather we always are proactive in dealing with some of these issues. Investigation cannot be done now without the deployment of technology.
The committee requested for statistics to assess the success rate of the Commission in the fight against crude oil theft.
It has not been clearly stated what is wrong with the asset, whether it is in the custody of the court or is credited to the Federation account. There are many instances where you only see case disposed, but we don't know what happened with the asset. It is subject for inquiries as we move forward. So please try to look at these documents so that we have a better explanation of what happened with the asset. Now, how many cases, do you have an idea how many cases that are before you now with regards to oil theft? This will give a justification of the question that was asked before, so that the Secretary can take note of this, so that we make a justification for special courts. How many cases do you have before you? I'm just guiding you. Do you have an idea? Just an idea.
All our commands, most especially the commands that are in the Niger Delta region, all of them have a section that specifically deals with issues of crude oil and illegal oil bunkering. So if you want to put a number to it, I cannot put a number exactly, but they are running into hundreds. Hundreds. And why I said so, because the department, or rather the section, investigative section, that is their only sole responsibility to deal with extractive fraud, extractive industry fraud section. They deal with those kind of cases on daily basis. So getting a specific number, I will not be fair to my organization if I just give a specific number. But I want to tell you that it runs into hundreds. Yes, if you look at our document here, 2019 alone, the cases that we even took to court is over 400. So 2022, the records are also here too. They're running up to 200 and something.
Welcome back to the Gavel. This week on The Breakdown, the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, PLAC, takes a swipe at the recently passed Police Act Amendment Bill, which seeks to extend the tenure of the Inspector General of Police. Here's the breakdown with PLAC.
In 2020, the National Assembly passed a new Police Act, which was very commendable because it took 60-something years for the Colonial Police Act to be repealed and reenacted. And PLAC was very much involved in the work that was done, drafting new provisions that sought to safeguard human rights and create new provisions to ensure that the police responded to citizens' demand about accountability. It also sought to create a fixed tenure for the police inspector general. Unfortunately, the amendment that was made in 2020 threw away those recommendations. And what we now saw was the 10th National Assembly proposing amendments to the Electoral Act to extend the tenure of service of police officers, extend the retirement age from 60 to 65, which would have had far-reaching political and economic implications for the country. That bill went through public hearing in the National Assembly. Unfortunately, that public hearing did not comply even with the National Assembly, particularly the House of Representatives' own rules, that requires that you do give at least 2 weeks notice of a public hearing. This didn't happen. But what was clear from that public hearing was that citizens felt that the attempt to extend the retirement age for police officers from 60 to 65 was self-serving, and it wasn't popular amongst almost everybody who spoke at the public hearing, except, of course, the police position. We expected that that issue would have been dropped. In principle, yes, an inspection of police should have a secure term, and we expect that as this has happened, this new bill has happened, that it will protect the tenure of a new Inspector General of Police. Of course, I do not expect that clearly the bill or the act that has been passed by the National Assembly, the bill that has been passed by the National Assembly, has no retroactive effect. So I do not expect that the person occupying the office of Inspector General of Police today would benefit from it. Legally, there is no provision for reappointment of a retiring Inspector General of Police. So we expect that the Inspector General of Police is retiring in the next couple of weeks, as clearly the the law under which he was appointed states. And under the Constitution, Section 162, you can only appoint an Inspector of Police from among serving police officers. So when this Inspector General of Police retires in a couple of weeks, he cannot be reappointed Inspector General of Police under this new law that the National Assembly has passed. And so we do not expect that President Tinubu will be renominating a retired police officer as Inspector General of Police. The Constitution is very clear, it forbids it. I think that we need to look at how the police is structured generally. And there's this whole conversation about state policing. There are constitutional amendment bills that talk about restructuring the police such that policing is a state-level issue. We expect that the National Assembly, in considering new amendments to the Constitution, would entrench state policing, but in a way that deals with the concerns people have about abuse of police powers. Certainly, the present system where you do have a centrally controlled police has proved to be ineffective. We expect that we do not then, in trying to deal with that ineffectiveness, hand over the police from the federal system to a state system controlled by governors who have shown no respect for due process in anything at all.
And on Constituency Focus this week, we had a chat with Honorable Sesi Wingan, representing Badagry Federal Constituency of Lagos State, on the representation of his people and constituency development.
In 2015, I came back to my constituency to see how I can contribute my own quota to the growth and development of my constituency. I started by opening up a center where we run our foundation. We started with few projects. In 2016, we renovated a whole health center. It's called Pota Health Center, for the people of the community. And also after that, we looked into some few issues that we have in the constituency. So I decided to come in by fixing some few roads. There are so many communities that were cut off that people couldn't even reach. You see students working in water to access the basic education that they are entitled to. So we decided to build some few bridges just to connect communities. After that as well, we opened the center when they were struggling in the entire constituency to register for their NIN. They couldn't have access to their bank applications. They couldn't have access to whatever they have in their. We opened up a center where we were doing free NIN. And so far, between 2018 till date that we opened the center, I can tell you that we registered more than 60,000 people. And at the same time, out of those people, we had buses that were moving them from communities to the center and moving them back to their communities. My plan is to see how we can facilitate some few projects like hospitals to some few communities who don't have access to basic health. I also intend to see how we can facilitate schools to few communities that do not have. We see some kids traveling kilometers just to access basic education. I feel that is unnecessary, and that is something that I can address. So I intend to see how we can facilitate schools to these communities just to make education closer, bring education closer to our people. Aside from that, we want to empower our youth. We want to empower our women. We want to empower our old ones. The kind of empowerment that I propose is not the empowerment that we do just for political sake. We want to genuinely empower them, see how we can bring in projects that will build their capacity, how we can bring in projects that will enhance them, and see how they can enhance them and contribute back to the community and also contribute to their own daily livelihood. Like I say to the few ones that cares to listen in my constituency, the federal government is not going to employ everyone. We cannot wait for the federal government to generate employment for all. So we decided to come together and see how we can build our own capacity, how we can get our youths skill, get them skill that that can fetch them their own source of livelihood.
And with that, we wrap up the Gavel this week. Send feedback to the Gavel at channelstv.com. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.